Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Comix Watch. I am Nick. Joining me is Jared, and if things seem a little bit different, it's because I finally gave in and paid the money after Jared had been incessantly bugging me.
Nick has his own StreamYard now.
And thus, I can do this.
You could always do that.
Also, I could do this.
Yeah.
So, you are full. I am fully in control of my own show now. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. I'm feeling very like rising from the ashes, if you catch my drift.
Very on brand, since we are the Phoenix Press.
That was my attempt at a Nick pun. How'd I do?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Okay, whatever. Hey, at least I tried. At least I tried.
Liar!
Okay.
All right, so let's kind of get on the ball here. So we are talking about the Phoenix Saga. Now we're kind of doing a little like extended kind of thing because as a child, I had a CD-ROM. And by the way, but when I was a child, dinosaurs still roam the earth. At least that's what Jared thinks. So.
Well, yeah, because back then the CD-ROMs were made of actual stone.
You're not wrong.
And Nick would travel to the store on the back of his like tiny mammoth cub.
His name was Bruce.
Of course, you would name your pet Bruce.
I mean, my sister also had a pet dino. She named it Diana. Named her Diana.
Okay. Moving on.
Weapons are part of my religion.
Oh, you came out swinging, dude. Oh, trust me, I'm coming for you.
I hope so. Oh, just you wait till this weekend. I'm really gonna.
Just you wait until you see what I have planned, because I already had my my plan that Taladia knows about. I figured out a way to make it even worse.
Bring it on.
It is going to be a nuclear hellfire upon you, like the Hellfire Gala. Or the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Which I was trying to make a pun to the storyline because the Hellfire Club plays a role in part 2 of the story, which I read both parts.
Well, Jared, let's show these people what we're talking about.
So we're talking about, let me share screen really quick.
I will consider giving you permission because I'm king of the castle.
We're talking about the Phoenix Saga, baby.
Oh yes, and by the way, I friggin' love that cover. And I'll probably need to own it at some point. Like, my God, it is expensive.
So the story behind this particular thing is that Chris Clairemont came onto the xmen and basically saved the book. That's the thing. And one of the things that he brought to it was a sense of like the X-Men are a family. That's where you get like all this drama in the book, but it was drama that was well done. The point is, he developed Jean Grey as a character, which Stan Lee, I love the guy, but his X-Men run, Jean was just there to be a girl. So
he was there to be faint and to be preyed upon by Professor X.
Yeah, exactly. But so what happened was he pitched this story to Jim Shooter, who was the editor-in-chief of Marvel at the time, and Shooter goes, "Hey, wait a second, that's a good idea. We have plenty of heroes," and by the way, this is the entire story, so part 1 and 2. But he said, "At Marvel, we have plenty of bad guys that turn heroic, but we've never had it the opposite way." So he was like, "Oh, that's a cool way." And to play his point, and Rob made this point on his show, the reason why the movies keep failing this storyline is because what makes this storyline so effective is that throughout Clairemont's run, he fell in love with Jean Grey as a character, and you really got to know her. Then she has this fall. The movies are skipping to the fall and abandoning the whole, oh, we got to know her. The closest it got were the original Fox X-Men movies.
I mean, the other thing is, like, people don't realize just how much of a slow burn this was. Like,
It was.
so this original part 1 takes place in like it releases in like 1976, 1978-ish. The Dark Phoenix Saga doesn't happen till like 3 or 4 years later.
Yeah, because I noticed, because as soon as I finished reading that, originally I thought it just went straight into this. It doesn't. It just
like you actually get to have her as a character, as Phoenix, for years. You know, and she's like doing stuff on her own, like she's her own. Like,
by the way,
also,
I freaking love Phoenix's costume. I'm just gonna say that right there.
Jared, frick you, because literally I was just about to mention that.
I mean, look at that. I prefer the
I was
green.
literally about to say this is probably my when it comes to
It's my favorite
costumes,
Jean Grey costume, 100%. I prefer
this is one of my favorite comic costumes, period.
Me too. I prefer the green one over the Dark Phoenix red and gold, because I think the green one is more like it's more unique, because like red's always a costume.
Yeah, red and gold is a very common color combination, and while green and gold is a very good combination, like Green Ranger from Power Rangers, anybody is green and gold. Like, it's a great color combination. You don't really see it as often as you would think, but it's just green and gold just go together so well. I'm surprised you don't have that color combination.
But my favorite parts of this entire saga is anytime that Phoenix goes nuts, because it's like they'll be like fighting a tough foe. He'll be like destroying the X-Men. Then Phoenix will show up, tap on his shoulder, and go, "Remember me?" The other weird thing, by the way, is reading this and seeing Emma Frost being a bad guy. Because when I got into X-Men, she was on the X-Men.
Yeah, I never really got into the character of Emma Frost myself.
She's actually a really in-depth character. In fact, Marvel did her own, like, I think it was like an 8-issue miniseries where it was all of her origin. She had a tough life, dude.
I don't know. Just every time I've seen her, she's just always come across as like ice cold, stuck up bitch. And like First Class really did her no favors.
No, read the Morrison run. If you read the Morrison run, that fixes that. Because she starts off like that and she goes through what's called the character arc. And through like falling in love with Scott Summers, he kind of like helps open her up, if you will. It helps her come out.
That whole thing is a whole messed up. They had that psychic affair.
Yeah, and then Jean died for the umpteenth time. This is why I don't like Scott and Jean, because she keeps dying, and that's just emotional abuse on Scott. He's like, she died again.
Yeah, Scott's had a really rough story where it's like, oh, Jean dies. Oh, Jean's back. We'll get married. We have a son. Oh, wait, that's actually a clone by Minister Sinister. And now this clone is named Nadine Pryor. She's a Goblin Queen. And oh, there's this whole thing with that going on.
Mm-hmm. There was this cool part in Grant Morrison's run, and then I'll tell this one story about Grant Morrison's run, and then I probably will turn this, but this is part of it, where after Jean finds out about the psychic affair, she gets very passive aggressive to Emma, to the point where in a Phoenix-induced trance, she literally shatters Emma in her diamond form, to the point where Beast has to put her back together piece by piece.
Wow, talk about shattering expectations.
But anyway, the point of that conversation is, it's really weird seeing like characters that I really know and then seeing them where they first started, because I believe this is the first time like the Hellfire Club and Emma Frost
Hellfire Glove, that's a new one.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really interesting because Emma, I've always said my three favorite X-Men are Scott, Emma, and Wolverine. And by the way, Wolverine is stupendous in this storyline.
So if I were to say my three favorites, it would probably be Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and I have to also include Kitty Pryde.
And then obviously also Jean Grey, because she's kind of your namesake too, right?
I never really got into Jean Grey. I thought she was fine as a character. She was cool, but I don't know.
She's okay. It's just, again, she keeps dying and coming back in really BS ways. So I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done.
I love Nightcrawler because he's got like that swashbuckler, debonair kind of thing to him.
Plus, he's a devil, but he's also a strict Catholic.
Yeah, and then Colossus is, he is like the very definition of milquetoast.
And by the way, Colossus on the X-Men team was a big deal because we were in the Cold War when this team was put together in Giant Size X-Men #1.
Yeah, like that's the thing about like the with the new X-Men is they really tried to be international. Like they had a Brazilian character, they had a Native American. Those two didn't really last that long, but like the other ones, like Storm was a big deal.
And here's the thing about Clairemont. This is why I adore this man's writing, except when he wrote a Superman and Wonder Woman book, which was god awful. But
is that the one time you don't like Super Wonder?
Here's why. In that book, a plot point is Lois gets turned into Wonder Woman. That is the origin for Wonder Woman in his Elseworld story.
So that must be the favorite story of every Lois fan out there.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, but the thing is, because when Clairemont does diversity, he does it in a way that it doesn't come off as beating you over the head. He does it like, I'm going to make this... Because, again, he does what I have always said writers should do. He has diverse characters, but they're characters who happen to be diverse. In other words, Storm's whole character is not that she's a black woman.
Yeah, like this is like the advice that I try and give everybody is don't write a black person, don't write a gay person, just write a person. Like just write human beings. Don't worry about gender. Don't worry about race, because the human experience is, in a very general sense, the same. Like we as human beings, like when you boil it all down, and I'm using very broad strokes for this. We all want the same things. We all want a good life with people to spend it with. Probably at least a decent house. Like we just all want a good life and people to spend it with. We want a nice, fulfilling life. We want, either a spouse, whether it be, guy on guy, traditional gay, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
We all want the same thing.
And the other thing about Clairemont, and this is why I think the X-Men have become so iconic too, it's also why they don't work as part of the Marvel Universe, I'll get to that in a second, is that he made them an analogy if you've ever felt othered in any way. Granted, there are like some movies that lean heavily into that being a gay allegory, which that's fine. That's part of this. I was saying
the problem I have with modern interpretations of X-Men is like you said, X-Men was made to be a general allegory for all minorities, to all disenfranchised groups. And yes, that does include gay people, black people, or whatever.
100%.
I feel like modern writers tend to be like, X-Men has always been a queer allegory. Like,
when they say it's only been that, that's my issue. Is when they say only.
I'm gonna let you know the whole X-Men queerness really only came about in the early 2000s. Like
because of that movie, right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was happening before then, but like the first gay character in comics was an Alpha Flight character, North Star, which was Alpha Flight is an X-Men spinoff, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. I think Alpha Flight was the team that Wolverine was on before he became an X-Men.
Yeah, Alpha Flight is basically Canada's X-Men.
And that was, fun fact, Jim Lee's first book at Marvel.
Huh.
When he joined, because he was submitting all his samples, he went to Marvel and they said, okay, we'll put you on Alpha Flight. And then it was from there he went to Punisher, I believe.
That's a story for another day, though.
Yeah, but anyway, but the thing again, he keeps it very, very general because I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere.
Same.
I'm sure all of us have felt that like they don't fit in because of any reason whatsoever. And with the way Claremont wrote the X-Men, they were talk about being seen, if you will.
Let's see this beautiful art. Let's can you scroll through the book?
Yeah.
I want to see.
So by the way, the art is by David Cockrum, and talk about a freaking dream team. Hang on, I'm gonna make it more full screen. Just give me 1 second.
If you follow me on Twitter, you might have noticed like some posts I made about it, and
Look
it's really interesting. See, here's what I find interesting about this art, Jared. If you look at this, there's hardly any shading. It's almost all flaps. Now, part of that is because these books were made for newsprint, which did not handle too many colors that well. We didn't really start to see shading until digital colors came about in like the mid to late 80s, but also when they started printing on better paper in the 80s.
Yeah, but it's like the way the colors work, because the context of this scene is the X-Men were like returning from a mission to a space shuttle, and they were going to unavoidably hit some cosmic radiation. So Jean shielded them from the cosmic radiation. That's what this is supposed to depict.
I do feel like Dark Phoenix actually did a pretty good job with this scene.
Yes, it did. I will say the better depiction of this storyline was the Dark Phoenix movie.
You want to know what's hilarious?
Is that they have the same director who did X-Men 3?
Well, no. This is the same writer. So Simon Kinberg wrote X-Men 3, which is like the Phoenix movie. And then he's the writer and director of Dark Phoenix. Like, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm. By the way, speaking of Dark Phoenix, so I happened to, last year when I was at SuperCon, I got to meet Chris Clairemont. It's really fun. He signed my trade of Days of Future Past, and I have this book that's like a bunch of select Marvel stories he wrote. So I asked him about first off, what's your favorite movie that like depicted your work? He says Days of Future Past, because he said short of Wolverine, that's pretty much it. And
yeah,
and by the way, the only reason why they had Wolverine go back in time is because they couldn't sell a movie mostly about Kitty Pryde. But anyway, the thing about what he brought up about that movie is he said they were supposed to lean more into the Phoenix part of it. In other words, that whole train, as soon as the train part starts, that was all reshoots. That entire ending scene.
Literally.
Wait, because they were doing Captain Marvel and they wanted to have her go binary, and binary is tied to the Phoenix, so they didn't want any confusion.
They're literally making a movie called because in Dark Phoenix they're supposed to be Skrulls, and they're still basically Skrulls in the movie. Let's be honest.
And they reference them in the Dark Phoenix Saga. I believe that's the race that she like blows up and eats. Which fair
play. Like if they're gonna,
but they're not shape. I don't think they're shapeshifters.
No.
Again, that's another reason why I hate Captain Marvel, because it's sabotage. Because I think that if this had not been tampered with, it would have been a good movie.
Jared, you want to know so the whole train sequence, the part that I find like the most ironic. No, keep it up, please.
No, so real quick, I just want to show off this little important thing. If you could share my screen. So that's me hanging out with Chris Claremont. That's me and Lad. Lad's the co-founder of Comix League. We're like hanging out with him. He's a really warm person. The dude is a doll.
But going back to Dark Phoenix, the thing I love about that train sequence is, you notice what they have as their patch? They're the mutant control unit.
MCU, I know.
Like, literally, the patches say MCU. Like, Simon, you could not be more on the nose if you try. Like, literally, the fact that they're captured and they're taken hostage by the MCU. Like, how did Disney even allow that? Like, I don't even know why Disney even allowed that.
And what's cool also, so going off of this, so with a Cockrum, back to this, because I watched they have this fantastic documentary on Chris Claremont's whole career at Marvel. It's fantastic. One of the things they went into is that Cockrum was like in the military, and like he would fill out notebooks after notebooks with just character designs, and that's where you got like Nightcrawler and like Colossus's character designs. It was all just stuff he doodled in the army. So it was this real. So in other words, you had what I call the 1-2 punch of X-Men: Claremont writing, Cockrum drawing, and later John Byrne. I think John Byrne did a pretty good job.
Also, we got to give some respect to Lee Wen.
You mean Len Wein, who because I think Claremont took over for Len Wein.
No, I thought Len Wein was later, like 80s or something. Like he created characters.
No, because Len Wein did a Giant Size #1.
Oh.
Yeah, it was Len Wein who like handled the relaunch, and then they handed it over to Claremont because Claremont was an intern at the time and he wanted to write a comic book, and they said, "Hey, we don't care about X-Men at the time. Do you want to take over?" Okay.
Hey.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hey. It's me.
Prove it.
You're a dick.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep scrolling through this page.
Yeah, so let's see some more. I like a lot of times when like Cockrum will just have the floating heads here reacting to what's going on.
Yeah, you don't see that very much anymore.
See,
the thing that I really liked about these art is, like I said, there's no shading, and obviously that's where, like, okay, zoom in on this panel, please.
Yeah.
And it's all flats, and basically the inking is doing a lot of the heavy lifting of this art. Go look at the picture of Scott. I think that's a good one. Like the picture of Scott in the first panel, please. Like look at his hand. Like they're spotting, like they're spotting the blacks in the hand. You got like the different levels of shading for his head. The inker is really doing a lot of the heavy lifting for this art. Who's the inker for this one?
I think it's also John Byrne. I think he drew and inked it.
Huh.
Oh no, the inker is Terry Austin. At least on Dark Phoenix, so I'd assume it's the same one.
All right. Well, assuming Terry Austin did this, shout out to Terry Austin. You are an unsung hero. Like the only really shading is really with her hair, and like the only reason you can get away with it is because like the hair is just like this big blob of red. But other than that, like you don't see very much shading.
And the colorist, I like the way her arms are shiny. In other words, I like when the colorist can make the panels feel like they're glowing.
I wonder how much of that is the inker and how much of that is the colorist.
Either way, whoever did that, chef's kiss.
I mean, that might be the colorist because you're kind of seeing like two different shades of yellow here. Yeah, look at the belt. Like the belt is a good depiction of the colors. Look at like how shiny the belt looks. Oh dear God!
And even her boots.
Those boots look really good.
Phoenix, by the way. So yes, this was the scene from X-Men the Animated Series that I used for Nick's intro. By the way, the animated series freaking nailed these stories. 100. It was practically panel to screen.
Well, the thing with that is they were an animated series. They had the time to tell it properly over a longer period. The problem with movies is you need to do a 4-year story over the course of 2 hours, and there's just not enough time to do. I think I could see this being like an 6 to 8 episode miniseries, but that's probably the shortest.
Well, what they could have done is had Jean done more in the Fox movies where everyone's young, so we could be like, okay, so we now care about Jean, and then she has this fall.
I will say they set up the Phoenix Saga good because remember they use X2 to set up the Phoenix Saga.
No, I mean in the newer X-Men movies.
Oh, I'm just talking the original run, the Bryan Singer run.
X2 did a decent job because we had 2 movies where we were getting to know Jean, and then it happened.
Yeah, and her death and literally the last shot is the Phoenix rising. It was very clear.
Yeah, in the water. That was so. It took me like a couple of years to notice that. I'm like, why are they panning over the water? Oh,
Did you know that Bryan Singer wanted Sigourney Weaver to play Emma Frost in his X-Men 3?
I could see that.
A 2005, 2006 version of Sigourney Weaver.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could work.
We got all this. I like how the story also like digs into the fact that Professor X is no saint. He has some sinister / manipulative tendencies in him.
So you're saying he has some sins in his past?
Oh, geez, Nick, why do you have to bring that up?
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
Yeah, I know. It's very much not a great plan.
Yeah, all right. But
and then also, wait, this whole series gives us Storm's origin.
Oh, really? What version do they have in this one?
They have the one where, hang on, I'm trying to find. I think it's an issue 2 because at some point they're fighting Juggernaut and all these guys, but she all of a sudden like freaks out, and then this is where we find out she's claustrophobic, and then what happens is she has a flashback because she had repressed these memories where her family was like royalty that lived in like an African nation, and then a plane crashed into the building and she was like buried under rubble. Her parents were killed. She got out, became a street urchin, as in the case of Apocalypse, which was honestly pretty decent. And then she left and went to the Serengeti, and that's where we find her in Giant Size #1.
Yeah, and what I love about her time in Cairo is that's where Gambit comes in, because he met Gambit in Cairo, and they're actually pickpocket thieves together.
That's interesting.
You didn't know that?
I like that one. I did not know that.
Wow.
And then also we have like, so more of that. We also have Professor X trying to like manipulate Scott into helping him, and Scott's like, hey, my girlfriend is in a coma right now. Bother someone else.
Yeah. See, one of the issues with the movies is they do tend to sanctify Professor X. I feel like the First Class timeline, like the McAvoy version, they get a little bit better at it, but he's still a little bit.
Another thing, Dark Phoenix did pretty well. That's where they showed how he basically like manipulated Jean.
Yeah. Yeah, because they like put the second, like that one I'd say is a little more justified because, well, I'm trying to think. It's like in the X-Men 3 version, he actually put limiters on her brain to do that. Like I could see why he did that.
Yeah, but the thing is that there was still amount of like manipulation being like levied on him. He never told the X-Men the full story about their teammate, and I'm like, yeah, dude, that you don't want to do that if you're gonna have them risk their lives next to a WMD.
To be fair, Charles is also WMD.
Well, yeah, but I'm just like, dude, you're already employing child soldiers. You should let them know who they're going to battle next to.
Which, by the way, I just want to say that's actually one of my favorite plot points of Logan. To where, what would you do when you have the world's strongest telepath starts getting Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I know. And then if you're paying attention, like the radio broadcast, it turns out his first like Alzheimer's attack is when he killed the X-Men.
Yeah, and Wolverine is the only one who could have survived it. Basically, just like walked up, probably punched him on the, knocked him out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. But anyway, so another
like
thing
not only that, but like in the Westchester incident, he actually killed way more people than just the X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm saying in terms of why the X-Men aren't there. Another thing I like about Cockrum is that he has these blur lines, so he's communicating motion really well, particularly for like an acrobatic character like Kirk.
Yeah, speed lines are something that's really, really important in comics because, we only have one panel, and it's oftentimes trying to depict like multiple things at once. And speed lines are a great tool to kind of help show motion.
The other thing is, so speaking of Chris Claremont, do you know why his run featured so many female characters?
How
Because
come?
when he was coming up with the idea for a character, he asked, "Is there a story reason why this character can't be female? If not, they were female."
Yeah, that's one thing I did learn from my animation teacher. Like I learned a similar kind of lesson to where when you're creating characters, you have to ask yourself the question, do they need to be white? And I know that like sounds like really, really, really bad, but it's kind of a simple thing. Like you're creating these characters. You're not changing someone else, some other character. It's like because like otherwise we do what we know. Like I don't want a book full of white people. You know, like I mean, if its story calls for it, then sure. But like if I have a character where okay, they can be a different color, ethnicity, then sure, I'll do it. Like it's just it depends on the story and the character, really.
And we get also another thing I want to highlight here is that whenever Cockrum draws like machines, he's like EVS in the way that he's very detailed in how he like renders all this.
He's very Kirby-esque.
He's very Kirby. Oh, if you want to see detailed art, read New Gods, baby. Read New Gods.
Also, Jack Kirby's motto is more dots, more dots.
Yes, Kirby dots, baby. Kirby dots. Also, he's very Kirby-esque in the way he draws like the energy emanating off the gauntlets.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
Oh, like go back a page. Go back a page.
Yeah.
Go back. Go, the close up on Storm's face. I want to show that one. Look at the detail on that. Like like you have like the hash marks to define the cheekbones, and like you have it on the other side. I'm just saying the inker. Oh dear, like the inker is really good. Like normally, like nowadays, this kind of stuff would be done in colors. The fact that you have the inker doing it just makes the art so much better.
Yeah, I gotta say, inkers don't get enough praise for how they can improve and or save art.
I mean, just look at the relationship between Jim Lee and his inker.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Because if you notice, whenever Jim Lee does anything, it's always Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair on art. He always has the same guys he collabs with.
Yeah, I think there's a comics, either Comic Explain or Comics, like one of the comic tubers actually did a video about it. I saw it. It was really eye opening.
I think it was Comic Tropes.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. And then again, I like the way he draws battles and such. What's really favorite part? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The thing I like about this art is, like, at first glance, you wouldn't think it would be so detailed because all you just see are flats, and you think, oh, it can't be too detailed. But you just look at it, and there's so much information.
Look at the rain.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Yeah. Again, I could see that Cockrum is really good at communicating motion in like the littlest things.
Yeah, I love it. And these are all flats.
And the lightning too, how he gets like the flash of lightning.
Like, I don't want to know how long it took him to draw that fork lightning. Like that is insane.
That is freaking nuts. So, and just the ability to like choreograph out all this action that like Chris Claremont puts out. Well, it's also because I'm sure it helped that I think Claremont writes full script instead of Marvel style, so it was a little bit more. I'm sure Claremont was like, okay, so Wolverine does this and Cyclops does this. We're gonna have to return.
And the other thing you got to remember is all of this was done by hand, pen to paper. Like there was no computers involved in these books. Like 5 years after this publication, you're starting to get some computers. But at this time, we're in like we're in the late 70s here. This is all hand done.
Yeah, I know, and it's still so good. By the way, this is my favorite issue because I love the giant size team fighting Magneto for the first time because they don't know what his powers are. So Wolverine and and Colossus are the first to charge, and they get like swatted away because they're made of metal.
So Cyclops is like, wait. Oh, not again.
Fun fact: it was also Clairemont's the reason why, like, he has the adamantium skeleton. Because when Wolverine was first invented, it was just the original idea was the claws just come out of the gloves. So he said, "Okay, so wait a second. If he has this, let's give him like the healing factor. So he so you don't know how old he is. Then let's make it so every time he pops those claws, he is hurting himself."
I love that moment from the first X-Men movie where it's like, so when the claws come out, do they hurt? And he's like, every time.
Yeah, I know exactly. It's a reference to that, and I'm like, oh my god.
And like, yes, if you look at like this, I think the movie, like they literally show the claws cutting the skin to come out in those movies, and it looks amazing.
And they heal up, yeah. And then it's like when they show like the adamantium claw, when they show like a flashback to him escaping from the Weapon X facility, his hands all like bloody and stuff. It's really nuts. In fact, they've actually done like some things in like modern X-Men comics where if Wolverine is upset, his claws will start to come out a little bit. So you'll start to see like blood drip out of the little holes for the claws. It's a way of like showing his mood. Like he's like,
yeah, like hasn't been in there like a couple of times, or like the reason why he's always angled like this is because the claws come out of his wrist. Because like if he angled his wrist like this, they just come out like that.
yeah, exactly. Or it's like in X-Men Origins where Wolverine where like Deadpool has the entire sword coming out of his forearm, even though he would have no way to bend his arm.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite moments from Days of Future Past is when he's like, "All right, guys," and he like looks down, he realizes that he has his bone claws.
My other favorite part is in Wolverine at the very end when he's going through the metal detector and it doesn't go off, and he's like, "Oh, okay," because he doesn't have the adamantium in his skeleton anymore.
Yeah, that must have been weird for him. Like his body, like, I feel so much lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I realize
exactly.
that adamantium weighs a crap ton, and
they showed that in X-Men Origins.
Really? When was that again?
He gets on the motorcycle and it like goes down, and he goes, "Yeah, I put on a little weight recently."
A little.
Yeah, it's more than a little. But again, it's like what really astounds me reading these is that you really see the origin of like a lot of stuff that we take for granted. It's like the Wolverine thing, the fact that it's always more or less this X-Men team. Emma Frost being a bad guy. It's like when you like look back at where it started, it makes you appreciate even more what we have now.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say this. I wish we'd have like I wish we got more Banshee, because like I loved Banshee. I always thought he was a great character. His power set is really cool. Like how he flies.
He's Black Canary.
Well, he's better than Black Canary.
By the way, can I say one thing?
Because remember, all Black Canary can do is her canary cry. Whereas Banshee, he can do like echolocation. He can fly.
Yeah. By the way, Cockrum drawing magnetism.
Oh, so
wow. Like we're getting into the stage of massive pretend even more than we are now, because you can't see magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, again, that's why it's 100% believable that this became the top selling book at Marvel, because you have Clairemont's writing, which you've already gone into detail about how awesome he is. Then you have this level of art.
Yeah, it was a top shelf book. So yeah, we're kind of approaching the 40-minute mark, and so I figured we'd kind of wrap up a little bit. So Jared, what are your final thoughts on this book? And what rating?
I love this book. It's one of my favorite, because X-Men has always been my favorite like family of books at Marvel, because again, it's the same reason why I like DC better than Marvel. I like the characters that are practically gods and seeing how they interact with the world. It's why I like Greek myth and the Justice League and such. And that's what these, because, well, I got news for you. If the X-Men, the one thing I will give Avengers versus X-Men, that's realistically what would happen if the X-Men fought the Avengers. The Avengers would get their asses kicked. Because the Avengers have like 1 or 2 gods. X-Men have like 20.
All right, well, let me ask you a question then. X-Men versus Justice League.
That is a question that depends upon, is Phoenix on the Justice League?
She's not. Okay. What X-Men team would you assemble that could beat the Justice League but not curb stomp?
Beat the Justice League but not curb stomp?
Because if you want to curb stomp, you just bring in Jean Grey.
Just Phoenix alone. That's it. Well, see, here's the thing. There's enough power. It depends on the lineup of the Justice League too, because when you think about it, depending on the you could have like Phoenix, but she would, but I would still like say, okay, so versus like Martian Manhunter or something like that.
First off, Rogue. Rogue needs to be on that team, and this is a Ms. Marvel powers infused Rogue, by the way.
Yeah, in other words, my team, for the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to go with the 90s X-Men team from like the Jim Lee and Chris Claremont X-Men #1. I'll go with that team. And then for Justice League, I'll go with the Zack Snyder crew.
Okay, so who just remind people of what the X-Men crew was.
That was Beast, Storm, Jean Grey, not Phoenix Jean Grey, just Jean Grey, Gambit, Psylocke, Rogue, Colossus, Cyclops, and Wolverine, and Iceman.
And Professor X. Yeah,
and Professor X, yeah. So for the Justice League team, I would have like
Professor X could easily out psychic Martian Manhunter. Easily.
True. I would say so. He is that powerful.
On a purely I'm trying
to think. Who else is a telepath in DC that could possibly stand against
Ms. Martian?
Professor. Hello, Megan.
I mean, there's also some villains like Psywave and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in terms of Justice League members, it would be the Snyder Cut crew plus Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern.
Okay.
But in that case, this is a really tough fight because both teams are freaking stacked.
I would pit Rogue against Wonder Woman, and I think Rogue would actually come out on top because, from a physical standpoint, Rogue is about toe-to-toe with Wonder Woman. But as soon as Rogue touches her, he's down.
It's the thing. And it depends on what costume Wonder Woman's wearing, because if she's wearing like the costume she had in the New 52 that was all head to toe, she's fine.
I mean, all it takes is skin-to-skin contact, and like not all of her, like she has some exposed.
True.
And also, Wonder Woman wouldn't be aware of that. Like, I'm saying these.
But
two
here's
are going
the thing, though. Here's
no
the thing,
preparation.
though. Yeah, but here's the problem with that. Wonder Woman's a warrior, particularly this version of warrior that fights with a sword and the shield. She's gonna cut Rogue's head off before she even has a chance to do anything.
Does Rogue have durability?
I think she has some durability. I don't think she has like insane durability.
So also, I don't think Wonder Woman would go for the head immediately. So, and plus, Rogue is a bit of a scrapper. While she's not like a trained warrior, she can hold her own in a fight. I would say Rogue would win.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But I mean, yeah. So there would be that. I think Superman could, except for like all the sidekicks, I think Superman could take out pretty much everyone on this lineup of the X-Men. Because Iceman's not going to do anything against him because he has heat vision. Everyone else does not have super invulnerability.
So Superman has shown that like he's not immune to psychic attacks, but it is harder for people to do psychic attacks against it. So plus, Professor X, if you really tried, might be able to knock him out, but it would take a lot of effort from him.
Plus, here's the thing. I believe I read this in a comic where Martian Manhunter has trained the Justice League's some psychic defense.
Yeah, like Professor X would have to like go full bore. Because remember, Professor X is like the top telepath in his universe, He's a Martian Manhunter. While he's strong, he's not the top.
But the problem is, here's the issue here with this. Because remember, it's team versus team. So someone has to protect Professor X, because Batman, being the strategist he is going to recognize, okay, so he's doing this. He's a telepath. He's the leader. Flash, take him out. While he's distracted with Superman, Flash is going to come over on the side and sucker punch him. But then you have the whole thing about Iceman. See, that's the thing. That's why I picked this team, because you have a lot of counters.
I mean, literally, the Flash had trouble going against a guy with a freeze gun.
And here's the thing: in my version of the Justice League has Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple, and if Rogue took out Wonder Woman, she becomes priority one in terms of Superman. And I think Rogue versus Superman, I'm not sure that's gonna. It's not gonna be
Rogue
like a throwdown.
Rogue is gonna win. Because you got to remember, at this point, Rogue, not only does she has the Captain Marvel powers, but she also has Wonder Woman's powers. Remember, absorption.
True. The thing is that
here's what I might.
Here's my one counter. Superman is faster than Wonder Woman. Ergo, Superman is faster than Rogue infused with Wonder Woman's powers.
All right, then fine. What happens is you basically use Gambit to distract Wonder Woman. He's basically talking her up with his mutant powers.
So good.
And so Wonder Woman,
Gambit trying to hit on Wonder Woman.
I mean, Gambit could do it because of his superpowers.
Yeah.
And he'd be flirting with her. I want to rate the story so bad. No. Hear me out.
He doesn't have
Rogue
engages
flirting. Superman. Rogue engages Superman and drains his powers.
Does she? Wait, is it established that she also takes the weaknesses? Because here's the thing: immediately when Batman sees it's gonna be like kryptonite.
But still, Superman's still out of the equation anyway.
And then you got the Flash, which is like the fastest
Iceman.
being in both universe.
Iceman.
True, but then you got Cyborg heating up Iceman.
Cyclops could destroy Cyborg with one blast.
But here's the thing: do we allow Mira on the Justice League?
No, because she's just gonna crap the bed.
True. that was
you set me up for that so well.
But here's the thing: we can bring in Martian Manhunter, who can immobilize Iceman by knocking him out. He's done that before.
That's not if Professor X knocks him out first. Also, Wolverine, we haven't talked about Wolverine on this, so Wolverine could tear apart Cyborg easily.
Wolverine could tear apart Cyborg. I'll give you that one.
And then Cyclops' blast can punch holes through mountains. So that is a bit of a.
I just want the image of Superman's heat vision and Cyclops' optic blast clashing. Just briefly, I just want that image.
There will be a beam struggle.
There has to be a beam. You're missing an opportunity.
And Superman's like, did you really think you'd win? And Cyclops is like, no, I was just trying to distract you long enough. And then the next second, Rogue gives Superman a kiss on the cheek.
No, but wait. Can I bear with me here? Superman puts his hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, miss. That's not proper. I'm taken. And then what Wonder Woman would do, she would grab a gloved hand and she goes, hands off my man.
Well, she's still distracted by Gambit.
Yeah, that's not his powers. His powers is he supercharges playing cards.
No. Actually, charisma is one of his superpowers. Literally,
okay.
He has super sexiness.
Gambit, super power, charisma. I have to see this if this is true. Because if not, I'm taking back that win. Kinetic, superhero for physical attributes, kinetic channeling, hidden martial arts. I'm not seeing charisma.
I know it's there.
Gambit superpowers. Here we go. Actually, I'm going to go for the Marvel website. I'm going to go to Marvel website. Do you trust the Marvel website?
I know there is a version because I literally read a like an RPG source book. I used to have it in
Is that the 90s version though? That's the thing, because I'm using the 90s X-Men. Was that in the show or the comic? Because if it's not, guess what? Not happening, dude.
Jared, I win. Let me just share the screen. So this is the fandom wiki. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Powers, skills.
Skills. It's not powers. See, here's
it still says powers. It still says powers on it.
That doesn't mean he can like. That doesn't mean she's stunned. Because here's what you have to understand. Wait a second. She works with Hal Jordan. She's used to charisma.
Not Gambit.
And
charisma.
Bruce Wayne. She's used to it, dude.
Not great
That's
Gambit.
That's not going to distract her. That's not going to distract her. Plus, she's with Superman. You're acting like he has mind control powers with his charisma. No, he doesn't do that. Yeah, I'm taking that back, sir. No. I'm taking that back because guess what? I'm on the Marvel website, and that's not in his powers.
I reject your reality and substitute my own. I am king of this castle.
I'm going straight from Marvel, so you know what? I'm going by the source and not a wiki.
You know what power I have, Jared? Gambit has the power of super charisma. That is what I'm saying.
Okay, you can be wrong. That's fine. It's not going to work.
This is my castle, brother.
Plus, Wonder Woman has her hands on the lasso of truth at the time. She's like, and that's like resisting the charisma powers.
That's not how the lasso of truth works.
Yes, it does. It's the way it works in Wonder Woman comics. She has done that before to break mind manipulation because it just reveals the truth. And she goes, "Oh yeah, you're a d-bag. I see now."
Well, you want to know what she does when she lassos Remy?
No, she doesn't lasso him. She doesn't lasso him. She has her hand on it, so it continually illuminates her vision. So she sees.
You know she's gonna try and lasso him at some point. You know it, and all he has to do is be like,
"No," because here's the problem. Here's why she's not. Because inevitably, he would have shot her with his playing cards, and she'd be like, "Okay, so he touches him. He can supercharge anything he touches. I cannot use the lasso in this case."
Well, I wouldn't say she could figure that out just by seeing his powers. She's like, oh, like cards or whatever. Like there's a million different things.
No, but here's the thing. Wonder Woman is trained by the God of War to recognize. She's about in the level of tactical thinking of Batman. She doesn't get enough credit for this, but she was trained by the actual God of War.
You still have a Kryptonian infused rogue.
But Wonder Woman has defeated Superman. That's what you have to realize here, because Wonder Woman has spanked Superman.
Rogue can absorb more than one power set at once.
Yeah, but again, she sees her touch Cal.
Hi, Wonder Woman. Would you like a kiss?
No, but wait. She sees him. She sees Rogue touch Superman. She gets more powerful. Okay, I can't let her touch me. Okay, sword. Cut off her arms.
He has the power of Superman. Like, that sword is not going to do much.
Well, here's what you also don't understand. Batman takes out his Justice Buster armor, which is specifically designed to counter all Justice Buster.
Okay. All right. This is getting too ridiculous.
No, it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
And then all of a sudden, Spawn shows up and be like,
no, but Batman in the Scott Snyder run from
and then literally Zack Snyder comes and like, this is going too far.
No, but Nick, I kid you not.
And then Stan Lee rises from his grave and be like,
because
you guys just be friends.
Nick, there was a storyline in the new 52 where the Joker took over the Justice League, and to fight them, Batman had an armor that counters all of their armor. So she goes in to touch Wonder Woman, and then Batman comes up with a giant fist.
Game over. Phoenix shows up. Game over.
No, you said Phoenix is not in this. You cannot.
You busted out the Hellbat armor. All bets are off.
That still count. No, I had Batman. I'm just using one of his powers.
I am loving this.
I'm just using.
I am really, really enjoying this, by the way.
The X-Men are poor, dude. The League is a billionaire.
I guarantee you, Jared is like, I am regretting pushing him to go for the premium.
No, because then I don't have to send him recordings anymore. So I'm like, yeah.
All right. So,
But by the way, that was fun as hell. That actually could be a fun commentary thing to like war game if these two teams fought.
I shall take it under advisement. By the way, I win. So, Jared, thank you for joining us. And thank you, everyone. Now, tell me, who do you think would win the 90s era Justice League? I mean, the 2000s era Justice League versus the 90s X-Men. Tell me who would win in the comments.
Phoenix is not
right.
on the X-Men. We have to, because that was one of the rules we established. Because if Phoenix is on the Justice League, she could solo the.
I don't know what's going on with Jared's connection.
I was trying to be congratulatory, Nick.
Well, thank you, Jared. Also, I want to congratulate you on getting monetized and getting members to your channel. So, you're awesome.
If any of you guys are interested, come over to Comix League 2 because we're going to have I can tell you this for right now to tease you, we're going to have a book club.
Ooh. So, everybody, this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it.